Well, a few days ago, I was going through my comments on the last video and I noticed a very interesting question. In fact, here, I'll put the question on the screen. When I saw this comment, I kind of thought, this might be a good subject for a complete video. So that's what we're going to cover today. Of course, if you're enjoying this and you're looking forward to seeing it and you'd like to see more, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Also, click the bell icon to be notified when I put out my next video. So as you can see here, I've been doing quite a bit of prep work. So I've divided my canvas in half, painted a basic blue sky, which included clear gel, medium, and white, just like we would always do. Then I painted my sky on top. Now, I went ahead and painted a mountain in kind of the way that I believe the person in the comment was kind of describing. Very sharp, not inherently bad. In fact, you may really like that mountain. At the end, you may like that mountain better, and that's okay. But you've got to agree, it doesn't look very distant. So if you're trying to create distance in your painting, this is not the way to do it. So what I'm going to cover today are 3 things. And if you do these 3 things, you will have distance in your painting. The first one is contrast, the second one is color, and the third one is sharpness. Let's go ahead and do a mountain that looks a little bit more distant. All right, we've talked a lot. It's time to paint. Hopefully not too many people already skipped through the video. But anyway, let's go ahead and for starters, you'll notice, and the reason I didn't show you painting this one is because I think anybody can kind of do this more or less, just very sharp. This is pretty easy. This one over here is a little more challenging. I'm going to start out with some blue, some red and white. And I'm going to choose a color that is very little red, very little red. This applies to anything, not just mountains. Red is a foreground color. You put too much of it in the background and your elements are going to come too close. But anyway, let's take a little bit of this. This is basically the same color as the top of the sky, basically the same value. Not too much paint, but it always looks dark until you put it on here, or it looks too bright on the palette. You put it up here and it looks too dark, I should say. So let's go ahead and just start by creating, there it is, our first basic mountain peak. Oh, look at that. And so we'll just fill that in. And honestly, the outline of the mountain is irrelevant today. We've got full lessons on stuff, like that. This is just a matter of creating that depth in any kind of subject matter. In fact, my clouds are not even that good. Let me cover that little harsh spot right there. But look. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow that to just drift off, putting a little more paint down. See that? Just like so. The other thing maybe you would do is just take a clean brush. Didn't even check. Make sure you always check your brushes. I've learned that one by experience. Of course, I say I learned it, but I didn't even check. So I could have just as easily learned it again today. Glad that didn't happen. But there we go. Okay. So honestly, the profile is very similar. Maybe that one's a little taller, but that one's supposed to look further away. So there you go. That is the base tone. You see the difference? Big difference. Now, when it comes to creating, extra depth, another thing you can do here. So we're talking color, just talking color. I'm going to make it a little bit more to the red side, just a little bit more. You'll notice black and brown are completely missing at this point. And I have a lot of black and brown in my mountain on the right, especially in the gray. Put a lot of black in there. Black comes forward. It's too much contrast, but we're not into contrast yet. We're just talking color right now. So I've got a purple, but it's very much to the blue side and it's very, very light. And I'm going to place in just right here for fun. The idea is exactly the same, because if you can paint a mountain in one landscape, you can just transfer the same techniques to another mountain and get that basic mountain shape built in. And look, that one has a layer too. I mean, you can see how similar these mountains are. Okay. Now perhaps we'll come in here. This is just a lot of wide area that's kind of blank, so I'll paint in another one with the same color. Maybe connect it up like this. But you see, so far I've used less paint and less color. Very, very muted. In fact, it's very much the same color as the sky. Super similar. So that is your first tip. When you're trying to make things look far away, I don't know how scientifically correct this is, but it's like you're seeing the sky in between you and the subject, if that makes sense. That's the way I think about it. I don't know if that's completely accurate or not, but I think it is. You're seeing the atmosphere, and it makes it just kind of more the color of the sky, and it totally works. Makes it look far away. Hey, even if it's not really the way it works, just it's a great way to think about it. But that looks really distant compared to this one. The same exact size mountain. In fact, it's basically the same amount of mist. The difference is the color, and also the difference is the contrast, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Before I do that, we need to actually talk about sharpness real quick. I kind of forgot to mention that. This is definitely next in the chain of things to do. We need to look at our edges up here. Hey, are they soft? Are they sharp? This isn't super important. Actually, you would think it would be, but it's not super. It's the least important. You want enough sharpness that you can actually see it's a mountain. But just by having your color nearly identical to the sky, a lot of that sharpness is kind of taken care of for you. So I'm just going to take my 1-inch brush and just soften the left and right side. I think I might leave the top of the mountain more or less just the way it is. Too much blending and it just becomes a muddy mess, especially when you're talking about colors that are so close to the sky. Very little blending is needed. A little bit is fine. You know, here there was a lot of mist, but this time I kind of went over the top, which is nice. Again, not super important because it already is almost the same color as the sky, so it already kind of looks blended. So you see on this mountain here, it's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of really dark areas against really bright areas, and that's a high contrast situation. Over here, we have just the opposite. We have a low contrast situation. In some cases, the mountain being nearly identical to the sky above it, especially right here in that area. And very little contrast change as we work down the mountain. Here is very dark, almost black against that light sky. It makes it appear so much closer. We need to follow the same principle when we're highlighting. So in other words, you really need to hold back on the highlight. I know it sounds silly. You think, well, but there's really no highlight at all. That's kind of the goal. If you can barely see the highlight, you've done it correctly. All right, let's see here. Now remember, this only applies to painting things far away. You don't always want to do low contrast. That's usually not a good thing. So let's take a little bit of maybe our just yellow ochre. Not too much yellow ochre, that could be bad. A little touch of umber. Okay. A little more umber. When you mix paint for subtle applications, you have to mix it very slowly, adding little drops at a time. That works. I'm going to see about just getting a few little highlights. Honestly, that is probably too much, if you can believe that. So I'm going to darken it just a little and put a little blue in it. Oh yeah, that's that mountain. When I say blue, that's the mountain color. So look. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it's subtle. Less is more here. This is how you're going to create that distance, is because you barely have a highlight. Barely have a highlight. So this is your contrast. The contrast between the highlight and the shadow of the mountain is very minimal. Almost no contrast at all. And that is what creates the atmosphere, the depth in the painting. It makes it look very far away. When you go to put an evergreen right over this is going to look like it's 1,000 miles away. All because you're controlling the color. You're kind of like holding back. That's the secret. I believe we can use that same color. Because this dark color is just ever so slightly darker, it'll appear to have more contrast, which is completely fine. That's good because we're starting to come forward in the painting a little. Excellent. Yeah, that's it. That is it. The other thing you'll notice here, my brush strokes are small, but the brush strokes were pretty small over there too. It wasn't what makes or breaks your depth when it comes to this sort of thing. Your mountain could still look pretty close, even though you have very small strokes. But wow, look at that one right there. You can barely tell it's highlighted, and that is just enough. That looks like it's so far away, so far away. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to change to a detail brush. And perhaps we want just a little bit of snow. I think I kind of tried to indicate some there in the shadows, but maybe we'll do a little more. There it is. That is about the right amount right there. Not too much blue. Too much blue, it'll make it way too vibrant. Your vibrant colors need to be nowhere near this mountain. That is so important. can see just little tiny strokes with a detail brush. You certainly can do the entire thing with a detail brush. It's up to you. It's a little slower. Kind of great, isn't it? And right up in here, you could do the same, although way less. Way, way less. Less is more when it comes to this. You could see that here. Just a few hits. You kind of do something like up in here, maybe looks like a little glacier or something back there. I don't know. Now, one more completely optional trick I want to show you up here. If you can just take a clean round brush, or really any brush you like, as long as it's fairly soft, and float just a little of that sky completely over the mountain. This will not create a distant look to your mountain unless you've already built that look in. But if you have built that look in, this kind of just is a nice extra touch, a little extra sparkle to the painting. You see that? You just really just create that little cloud action that just floats over the mountain. Super subtle, super simple. Maybe not worth it. Completely, probably, maybe not worth it. But at least it's there. If you want to try it, you can see how to do that. Now, I have a very limited amount of sky background paint, very limited. If you have a lot, this sort of stuff won't work. That's one more thing. You have to limit the quantity of paint on your canvas. Otherwise, you'll never get softness. You'll either get sharpness or you get mud. It wouldn't be a bad idea. In fact, I did it. Wipe your sky off with a shop towel and then reblend it to make sure that only the paint that's stained on the canvas, stuck on the canvas, is left over. That way you'll have no trouble painting your mountain. So I've got a filbert brush here. I'm gonna wipe it out real good, make sure it's nice and clean, going right into some brown, black, blue, red, yellow, whatever. Doesn't matter, completely irrelevant. Whatever evergreen color, it doesn't have to be an evergreen, but that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna place, I think I'm gonna place it right here. I'm gonna place the other one right there. And no, I'm not. I'm going to place it over here because I kind of like my mountain over here. So I'm going to place it right here. And I'm going to go, well, you've seen how to paint an evergreen before. And we've got lessons on that too if you need that. But I'm just going to show you real quick. I'll just show you starting the evergreen. I'll get it in and then I'll do one over there. But look at the way this is going to pop. And the tree's going to come forward and this mountain's going to look like it's 1,000 miles away. You'll love it. Absolutely love it. I probably won't even highlight the tree because there's really no need. But just look at the difference, look at the depth. You can see the air through in between you and the mountain. It's so cool. Well, there's our completed mountains with a little bit of landscape around it, just to give you a basic idea. Now again, you may like the one on the right, and I do too, it's really not bad. But if you're trying to create the effect of the mountains very, very far away, and you want that depth, this is not the way to get it. You have to use those 3 things that we covered in this video. Well, I hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something out of this quick tip video. We'll be doing a regular painting in the next one. Don't forget to check out our website, our full-length DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching.